If you're looking at buying an NC1 NSX, this is the video for you. So first off, if you can get a PPI, just get one done. It's a good thing to do. They take off panels. It's at an Acura dealership. It looks all official. It's definitely a good thing to have, and also get the Carfax. But this video is going to give you some inside information and also some good information from an owner. And I've also made a ton of videos for this car, so I know this car pretty well. So the first thing you need to know is, does your car have a recall? And unfortunately, the NSX does have one of those recalls that you need to check on, and that's going to be the fuel pump recall. And all you need to do is plug it into the recall database, or you need to go to the dealership and plug in give them your VIN, and they should tell you if you have that recall. Now, it's been pretty common to see people that they've had the recall completed, and some people that actually had to replace their fuel pumps even without the recall. So it's just one of those things. Now, mine's a 2017 NSX. It's got about 40,000 miles, and my fuel pump is good. I'm gonna knock on wood. I'm gonna knock on wood right now because that's how I am. But it's one of those things you definitely need to check on. And it's like one of those things that's NSX specific. Another thing too is that these cars, I can't believe it, but they're gonna be almost 10 years old. Isn't that crazy? So this isn't a new car, and some of them have low mileage, low miles, and you're gonna run into those situations where people are like, I've only had to do the oil because the car hasn't told me to do it and blah, blah, blah. And technically they're right. If you're not familiar with the NSX tells you when you need to replace important fluids like the TMU and the drivetrain, the transmission and all that. And it also tells you we need to replace the oil. But with these cars being almost 10 years old, if I'm buying an NSX and it's almost 10 years old and it has anywhere like, even if it has 15, 20,000 miles, it's time to do those fluids. And I definitely stand behind that statement because you're getting to a point where those fluids are 10 years old and they've got to go. To give you a good example, because I've owned so many cars, Porsche's PDK service is 12 years and like some crazy number, 60,000 miles or 120,000, something crazy. But I'm talking about the time, and the time is 12 years old. And of course, we're coming 10 years old, and you could only, and of course, the cars that I'm talking about, this car is way faster. These cars are very fast and they produce a lot of heat, and your oils are going to break down. So do your oils. And I am a person who stands behind what I say because I bought this NSX, and the previous owner, he did all the fluids before I bought it, which was amazing. And of course, the car had 30,000 miles, so it was time for it. So if you're curious, most likely you're gonna have to have the fluids done. Now, one of those things you also need to inspect, and of course, we're talking about NSX specific stuff, and a couple of people had to replace them. And so much so that a company has made aftermarket options for him. So you could go buy aftermarket shocks and suspension for this now, which is really cool. Appreciate that company very much. But I'm going to Science of Speed. It's not like I'm trying to hide them. Science of Speed makes suspension, shocks, and we're very grateful for those. So what you need to do is you need to have those inspected. You need to make sure they're not leaking. And the way you do it is literally shine a flashlight, look at it, make sure it's not leaking, and make sure the ride isn't bad, it's not bouncy. You will know if you have bad suspensions. But it's part of those things now, especially with these cars, that you need to look at it. Now, my car has 40,000 miles and I have no issues. Again, I have to knock on wood. But it's one of those things I've seen, and one of the things you should check if I'm gonna help you find the right NSX. Carbon ceramic brakes. I don't track cars. It's not that I'm cool. It's that I used to race cars, so I feel I'm cooler than the people who track cars. I actually do feel cooler than them. But at the end of the day, these cars, if you're not tracking them, the carbon ceramic rotors can last you over 100,000 miles. Like, I checked everything in this, and this has 40,000 miles. It's almost 10 years old, and I think these brakes have only been used up to like 15%. Isn't that crazy? 15%, 15, 20%. So these will last. The things you want to make sure you're looking for is cracks. Unfortunately, I have helped people buy NSXs, and for some reason, the rear on carbon ceramic brakes, like people's had to replace like pads and stuff like that. I don't know if it has to do with the emergency brake or whatever, but that is weird. So I do recommend to look at all the rotors and the pads, especially on the carbon ceramic systems, because I made a video talking about how expensive they are. They are over $5,000 a piece for the rotors, for the front, and I think they're a little underneath for the back, so definitely something you need to look at. Now, another thing you need to make sure you check, and this is NSX specific, is the year of your battery. I know it sounds trivial, but if you're not worried about spending $200-300, then send that to me and I will use it, put it to good use. And the reason why I say that is that this car eats batteries. And it's just part of it, especially the 2017s. So if you look at a car and it's like, oh my gosh, the battery's like 4 or 5 years old, guess what? You're gonna have to buy a battery, and that's just part of it. It's really hot, by the way, so I'm sweating. And I'm only sweating because I'm worried that you guys are gonna have to buy a battery if you don't take my advice. And accessing the battery is really easy. I made a video how to do that. So check how old your 12-volt battery is. Another thing too is PPF. You're gonna want it. Like I have my scooter here, and recently I dropped my keys, which are pretty heavy, on the fender, and it hit the fender and it marked a tiny bit of the PPF. But guess what? That's what it's for, right? If it wasn't there, you just marked your paint. So PPF is a good thing. But here's an insider thing, because I'm a master tech and I'm also like super cool and I'm fat and everything. I don't know why I said that, but here's a cool thing you need to know. Are you ready? How old is the PPF? If the PPF is old, and a little trick you could do is look at the edges, see if they're peeling, if they're white, if they're yellow. Old PPF is definitely a burden because you have to pay to take it off, and then you have to pay to put it on. And if you watch Obsessed Garage, Matt Mormon just took off the paint off his GT3 RS or whatever, and he cried and it was real sad or whatever, really expensive, and he sold the car. I don't know, it was a whole drama, right? PPF can be your friend or your worst enemy. So make sure that that PPF isn't super old. Trust me, you will thank me. So moving on to the next thing. 2 keys, window stickers, booklets. I made a video of everything these cars come with. In the back, there's like a little pouch area that you put down, and you have like this like tire glue, and you have all your tools, and you have your booklet, all that stuff you want to make sure you have, and that some guy didn't keep it so he could sell it on eBay. I've never done that. All right. Ooh, I like friends, but I also make enemies because, well, let's see, I'm a master tech. I made the most videos for the NSX. I know what I'm talking about. I can't be wrong, but this one I stand by. If you could find an NSX that just has an exhaust setup, like downpipes, exhaust, you know, even if you got aftermarket suspension, wheels, all that stuff is good. But you start buying all this tuned stuff, that's fine. You could do that. And guess what? There's tons of NSXs running around with all this crazy modifications. It's not for me. And it's funny though, because when you think about it, and I'm gonna give you guys some information here. I'm considering buying a 2017 GTR just to compare it with the 2017 NSX. And it's funny that the 2017 GTR, I mean, most GTRs can make 1,000 horsepower like this. You wanna know why? The GTR is just a twin turbo V6. This is a hybrid supercar with twin turbos and electric engines, and they all work together, and the electric engines, you know, interject themselves, and they turn on and off, and it all happens just based on corners and speed and load and all this. And that's why you don't see 1,000 horsepower NSXs. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't even want to modify this car because it's amazing. Definitely with the exhaust though. The exhaust makes the car amazing, and that's like a must-have. But when you start doing all this crazy stuff, my buyer guide doesn't apply. This car is like a Porsche. And what I mean by that is that the options matter, right? If you don't want carbon ceramic brakes, I understand. If you don't want the carbon roof, you're missing out. If you don't want carbon fiber accents, you're missing out. If you don't want carbon fiber engine covers, you're not missing out because they yellow. So, and there's a guy who's like made them, and you could like get aftermarket ones that don't yellow. So I can't really tell you to get aftermarket carbon fiber covers because like they yellow, but other accents like the carbon fiber roof and the wing and the diffuser and all that, they definitely add to the car. And I have the carbon fiber steering wheel and all that. So all that stuff is good. If you're trying to save money, it really doesn't matter because there's companies that offer, you know, the wing and the diffuser and all that. So, but in my opinion, the better spec of a vehicle you get, the better, in my opinion, of a vehicle you're gonna get. So, yeah. But I think I've given you guys enough information to think about purchasing your NSX. Make sure you watch our buyer guides video, which are a lot more comprehensive. But this is one of those videos that you could just watch on the fly. Like you're literally gonna go look at an NSX and you're like, I need to figure out how to inspect an NSX. This one's just gonna give you the information you need to know right away, and hopefully it will help you. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Hit that like button, we appreciate it. And don't hate me about the tuning thing. It's just my opinion, and I stand by it. Bye.